Just a thought. All this worry about food shortages and farmers not being able to grow and plant the seeds, and all this worry around some event or another, and I won't go into depth or detail about what exactly. We know that there are many possibilities. Now you see, you've got those in the world that are classed as preppers and all the rest of it. They won't need telling this, but the rest of you might. Especially where it's obvious that farmers can't really plant sort of seed in this wet weather that we've been having, whether you believe in it or not. Personally, I do. Geoengineering and weather manipulation in order to forward the climate change agenda. Well, it doesn't really matter what I believe, as it doesn't really matter what you believe, whether you believe differently or not. What does matter is that some form of shit's going to happen at some point or another. And in that, we all have one thing in common, regardless of our beliefs. Whether you want to suck on the government's tits or whether you don't, makes no fucking difference. You've all got one thing in common, whether you like it or not, and that's you all need food to survive. So, as it's March now, I would suggest that everybody that can, whether they've got a flat or whether they've got a house with a garden or a small hold, starts getting their plants sown in pots. When the rain subsides eventually, because it'll have to, eventually, whatever happens, there's a chance then that if the weather gets better and does change, be it modified or not, you can take those plant pots out and transfer those plants out into the ground. The point is that you've already started the plants, so therefore you've got half a fighting chance to actually grow some food. Some will argue, oh yes, but if there's a cataclysm, the plants will get destroyed and it'll be a waste of work. Well, yes, there is always that risk, but if every man, woman and child that was capable of planting something, sowing something, even if it's just in a flat on a windowsill, like herbs make medicine. So those people in flats could be producing the medicine, whilst those people with the gardens and the small holds that could be sowing those carrot seeds, sowing those potato seeds in pots for the time being, and when the ground's dried up a bit more, then transplant them. Yes, it'll take more work, yes, it'll be a pain in the arse, but in the end, it might go and be worth it. You don't want food shortages. There's only one way you're going to stop that from happening, and that's not by sitting on your ass on TikTok or YouTube crying about the fact that there's going to be food shortages. The only way that you're going to solve the problem is by physically getting off one's bottom cheeks, regardless of your belief, and start going out in the garden, if you've got one. If not, buy some compost, take it back to your flat, get a few pots, and plant some herbs. What's the harm? If they grow, they grow. If they don't, they don't. The point is that we are mitigating at least something that we can trade later if shit hits the fan. Not everybody's got a big massive cellar that they can hoard stuff in like these preppers. You see, I find it funny because, these preppers and all the rest of it, some of them have got quite a bit of fucking money and can afford to build a bunker to hide all their food in. And the land to hide it. In some countries that's not necessarily possible, is it? Let's use some common sense here. So, all I'm saying to you is, let's just use a bit of common sense, start preparing things now. What kind of herbs could you grow in a flat? Rosemary, thyme, sage. Oregano is a good one for a medicine. Oregano oil in particular has been shown to have quite good what's the words now? I'm not a one for explaining these things. I know how to do things, but I'm not necessarily good at explaining them. But oregano is quite important. Thyme and mint are quite important. Mint is good with toothaches, aches, pains, sprains, that sort of thing. Like sage is good for antibacterial. Thyme, rosemary is good for when you have low energy levels, that sort of thing. It's quite good for that, rosemary. And the thing is, you can mix herbs together in teas, drink them 3 times a day, and that is how you can take in your medicine the easy way without having to make tinctures which require alcohol in order to get the goodness out of the plant. The point is, what I'm saying to you, ladies and gentlemen, regardless of your belief, and I don't care what you believe, because that's not the point of this video. This video is simple about asking you people out there just to slow down and have a little bit of a thought whilst you've got some time to do it. Don't take too long, but start getting stuff planted and sown in pots. If you've got a small old whatever and you've got like a building, you can put those pots under for the time being whilst this rain's heavy and persistent. Do it. You can find some space if you try hard enough. Everybody can. We find space to do things, so can you. And we haven't got the biggest place in the world. You know, some people will be able to produce more than others. It's not about shaming anyone as to who can produce more than someone else. The point of what I'm getting at is the end result. So if something happens, everybody can pull together and bring something with them that can help other people. People from the flats can then go to people with the smallholds and go, look, I've got these herbs, do you know how to make the medicines out of them? Oh yeah, sure. We all help each other in that instance, rather than everybody being in a great big fucking panic, not knowing what to do, and then killing or fucking robbing from each other for absolutely no reason whatsoever, when we could have just prepared in the first place and said, you know what, let's have a fucking bit of a plan. Even if it's a bit of a rough plan. You see, these rich folk, they'll go off hiding down the fucking bunkers. We won't get no such fucking luxury, will we? So we've got to be better than those little pricks that want to go running and hiding in their little bunkers. And we've got to show real humanity to each other when shit hits the fan. And we're going to have to learn to put our differences aside and really work together, because it's going to take that to get us out of any shit that's coming. It doesn't matter if you're somebody who perhaps knew me in the past and went, oh, he's a fucking dickhead, he is. Don't fucking like him, I won't fucking work with him. I might think the same of you, but I'd have to put my differences aside and say, well, that's not the fucking point now, is it? You might have fucking kids, and I've got to protect you in order to give your kids a fucking chance. I don't have fucking kids. By rights, I could turn around and go, well, fuck you, mate, I don't care. But that's not the way I roll at all. The way I see it is, even though I chose not to have fucking kids, there are other people out there who have, and it's important that that generation gets at least a fighting fucking chance if shit hits the fan. If you actually believe what I'm saying here has a point, then for fuck's sake, do something and share it. Don't just sit on it or scroll on. By all means, if you don't agree with it, just scroll the fuck on. It don't bother me either way. But what I'm saying is, if you think there's a point to what I'm saying, then actually share it, because there's a point to it. The amount of people that don't is absolutely remarkable. And I'm not bothered in one way, but, you know, with stuff like this where I'm trying to tell you, you know, we need a bit of a fucking plan. And we need to prepare ourselves mentally for the kind of things that might be around the corner. I'd rather be prepared for them to one degree or another. I know preppers will probably sit there and look at me and somebody like me and go, you fucking dickhead you are, you should have been doing this years ago. Yeah, in some ways I was. But I don't have the ability to do certain things those people who are preppers do, because they have more to be able to do it. You know, everybody lives in a different circumstance. Where we are, it's wet, damp and all the rest of it. To try and store seeds for any period of fucking time, for the sakes of an Armageddon event, shall we say, isn't necessarily possible. You can do it for a year or two, give or take, and the seeds will still be viable. But if you're talking about long-term storage, no, it's not going to fucking happen. But there are people with facilities out there that can do that. Well, that's fine. But you can't expect everybody to do the same as you just because you can do it. There are people in flats. They can't store food like that. They can't store seed like that. They're lucky if they can grow anything on the fucking windowsill. and they probably can do it once a year, whatever. I'm not saying it's impossible to, you know, have any preparation at all, because people should have some form of preparation and some form of fucking plan. But not everybody's plan is going to be the fucking same, because it depends on the circumstances you're in. You know, no use sort of preparing yourself for a drought if a flood happens, is there? No use preparing yourself for a flood if an earthquake happens. You know, you do have to think outside the box a bit, but you also have to be prepared that all that preparation you might have made in the past might go tits up anyway. But in the short term, which is what I'm referring to here in this video, like this year, we know that there's going to be possibility of food shortages and all the rest of it. Does it really take that much just to start planting stuff now? Because in 6 months' time, you might be grateful you did. And I hope I haven't overcomplicated it. Anyway, toodle pip.